Good evening. Thanks for joining us for the March 10 Board of Selectmen meeting. If everybody would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm going to take the agenda a little bit out of order because we do have a gentleman who would like to appear under hearing a delegation, but he has a time constraint. So, sir, I'd like to invite you up to speak.
Fair enough. I don't really need the.
Well, it's so that we can.
All right. Fair enough.
It's so that it's recorded.
It's very simple. We had a very hard winter. The plows ran out of places to put snow. But they've destroyed my mailbox along with, I believe, several dozen others. I placed the mailbox up to whatever the requirement is from the PO. You have a ditch behind that to run runoff. It's a problem. If I can't move the mailbox, I'm now out $35, $50, whatever. I'm not looking for reimbursement. It is a problem when we have this. And it seems to me it's going to be a growing problem. It's a simple thing. I don't know what else. We carved out away from the snow, away from our mailboxes, so there was access. But I know, even with all of that, admittedly at 5:30 in the morning when they're doing the plowing, they can't always be as careful as they might be when there's full daylight. That's the comment.
Okay. If you wouldn't mind just touching base with Christina and giving her your name and your address and your phone number, and we'll follow up with you.
Sure. Gerald David Silbert, 604 Townhouse Road, East Waterboro. You have a good day.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I can sympathize with your plight, sir, but that is an occurrence that I guess is just part of living in rural Maine. I'm on mailbox number 4 now. I can remember 30 years ago when my father-in-law was the road commissioner that was an issue then of hitting mailboxes. When you have a wing that goes out there quite a ways, it's pretty difficult. I mean, I don't know what the option is unless you get one of those swinging ones. So if they tap it, it swings out of the way or something like
It's
that.
either that or put it in concrete, which would be dangerous. It's that simple. It took off the entire top. The wooden stanchion that it was on is gone.
I know, like you say, I'm on mailbox number 4.
The additional problem, of course, boils down to I now have to go to the post office to pick it up, my mail. It's a simple problem. We could be a little bit more careful about it, or we could move the post office, the mailbox, a little further back. But because of the ditch, which is now lined by granite, a perfectly reasonable thing to do, I can't put it off far enough, and I can't dig out enough snow so that the access comes in. I don't have any recourse to solve the problem by myself. That's the nature of the comment. Have a good night.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we don't have any announcements. I'll get back to you. Get back to it. No announcements. Additions or deletions to the agenda?
We'll talk about Bagley Road under appointments, I guess.
Okay. Appointments. We have the Waterboro Land Trust that would like to talk to us about some parcels. Doug?
Don't fight over it. Well, we have 2 parcels. One parcel was voted in hands cold to deed over to us, and for some reason the deed has never transpired. That was in that list, right?
That was in the original deed to the land trust. It was listed in the conservation easement deed back to the town, but it wasn't in the deed from the town.
The second one, there seems to be some controversy over, and I guess I had a lapse of memory because I have in front of me a survey that the town of Waterboro done in 1989 that listed this lot as a town-owned lot, and the town paid for the survey. It's a certified survey done by Sebago Technics. It was done on 3/2/89, and it says that it's a town-owned lot. It says general notes. Recorded owner of this property is the town of Waterboro by tax collector's lien dated June 22nd, 1945, and recorded in the York County Register of Deeds in books 1039, page 192. Property is located on tax map 10. The parcel is not presently shown as a separate lot, but is part of what is shown as lot 32. Property is located partially within the Forest and Agriculture District and partially within the Conservation District. Total acres of this parcel is 37.70 acres. So here we have the survey, and here we have the explanation of it. And I came by this, I think by accident. Wasn't it by accident that we came across this? You was doing some work on it.
No,
Gar-
you found it in Gary's office.
Yeah. We had some plans that, I don't know, seems to elude me. I must not have been at the top of my memory list. Because I took it to my office and copied it, and here we have it. So that's why we asked for this lot to be turned over to the land trust, because it's been sitting since 1945. And there's the boundary survey for the piece that we got from I guess that's what I was doing, was getting the surveys of the land that the land trust got by the original agreement, and we found this particular piece here that was surveyed and still owned by the town of Waterboro. They've never sold it, and it's never gone anywheres.
It's nothing that we ever had on our list that we ever got with town-owned properties.
I wish I'd had that survey to show the assessor last week. I think his questions might have gone away. I don't believe he's seen that. So I think he had, I'm assuming, incomplete information to continue his questioning of, are we ready to do this? But that's a stamp survey. It surely means a whole lot compared to what we had to look at last week.
Charles Lowell Brown
Oh, boy.
surveyed it. And the problem seems to be, and I don't think this is the only problem we have in our tax map issues, is this is still considered part of lot 32, and it never was designated its own lot number as it should have been. It remained on part of the lot that belonged to somebody else. So I guess that you'll have to decide what you want to do, and if you want to do more research on it, we can bring this up at a later date. The piece in Ham's Cove, there was no question about it. It just never was added on to the deed that we were given. It was in the list of deeds that we were supposed to be given, but it was never added on there. We're beginning to find some of these snafus, if you will, because the land trust has hired a secretary to start researching stuff and trying to, get us some better records. So that's where we are.
Do you happen to know the date that that transfer was made to the land trust when the vote was taken?
Is that 07?
2010,
2010?
yeah, January 29th, 2010, the deed was recorded.
Yeah, the town meeting vote in 2007 voted to transfer those properties, right? that were listed, but it never really happened until 2010.
And I do know I was a member of the land trust at that point, and I was the secretary of the land trust at that point, and that definitely was one of the parcels that was submitted, because I remember researching the original deed for that parcels to provide it. So that was, I can say that was an error. It didn't get
Bagley.
deeded. No, the Hams
No,
Cove.
No, the Hams Cove lot. The Bagley lot is one that, I guess when I was going over looking for these surveys of the town-owned lots, we came across this one, or I came across it off some deep maps. It was in your office, and that's how we became the light of it. For some reason it slipped my mind. I have no idea why. But I did make a copy of it, so we do have it here. So
Okay.
what would you like to do?
So let's, oh, go ahead, Gordon.
I'll move that we direct the town administrator to take care of the Hams Cove situation, and I'll hold on another.
Okay, so is there a second to that?
Yeah, I'll second it relative to the Hams Cove.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor of Hams Cove? All right, so Gary will get that one straightened out.
Yep.
And then-
I have a second motion.
Yep.
On the second parcel where we don't know that much about it, I would move that we have the assessor investigate that and report back either through the town administrator or to the board the circumstances surrounding that parcel before we enter into a vote.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on that? Okay, all those in favor? All right, so we'll have the assessor look into it, and then we'll have it on a future agenda.
I have just one question. Does the land trust own any other property on the or adjacent to the Bagley Road property? So this is just another unique lot that was missed for whatever reason back when the review was done.
When Doug gave me this, I did go in with Jerry and spend some time with him, and he couldn't find where it was ever on the tax roll.
Diane?
Oh. When Doug brought this to my attention, asked me to look into it, I did talk with the former assessor, and he didn't find anything in the tax rolls that showed that it was ever numbered at all or under the town's name, or so I think it was just kind of got lost between the cracks, and I don't know how Sebago Techniques ever found it, knew about it, just to have it surveyed, but
What'd you say the date was on the?
89.
89, yeah. Do you remember
was
back when
March 2nd,
they did some surveys and they were going to be continuation of the tax maps? And that's what these are. These are dated sheets. They're saying sheets rather than maps, but they're dated, because our tax maps now go up to 59. These are dated 60 through 65, and they were surveys of town land.
Well, Charlie Brown is still with Sebago Techniques. Maybe it's worthwhile to get.
Yeah.
Well, was that all done in association with the? Remember, there was an there was a developed land up on Bagley Road, right? There was 3, 4.
Yeah, this has got Johnson land all around it. So whether Johnson had their land surveyed, and that's how it came. I have no idea.
Well, all I know is I was a hell of a lot younger when that happened, so, and I can't recall it being on the board, so.
All right,
Just a note. In
There
that
is
time
no-
period, we were looking into town-owned lots to dispose of them. We had a committee that was looking into the growth on some of these lots. We went up and went through the lots at Lake Arrowhead and other town-owned properties to see if it was worth cutting the timber on them, because it was after, we had, 40 years after the fire, and they was looking at it. And I think that's how some of these maps ended up getting surveyed, how some of these plots ended up getting surveyed. And some of this was discovered when Sebago Technics was doing the survey of Johnson property, because they did an extensive survey project of the Johnson estate property sometime in I thought it was in '86 or something, because I was involved in doing a lot of testing on that time, so I think that's where some of this might have come from. They knew that lot was up there from previous survey. I'm sure Charlie could give us a lot more information. I think he's the one to contact, really.
If you could either bring me another copy of that or leave that with me so I can have it for Bob on Friday.
I will get another copy of that.
Try and put this to bed. Thank you.
All right, moving on, hearing a delegation.
My name is Bridget McCallum. I live on Rosemount Ave in Lake Arrowhead. And as I was driving here tonight, I was coming down Silas Brown Road and noticed that the right-hand side or the north side is starting to break down in various places. And it suddenly brought back to mind the conditions that I drove on every day a year ago at this time. New Dam Road was deteriorating, falling apart. I ended up with serious ball joint problems in my car from on the right side, going in holes. And I just want to say a heartfelt thank you to the Department of Public Works team that made it so that that road is in such good shape today. We don't even think about the fact that a year ago it was just sheer hell to drive New Dam Road. So I just wanted to say that out loud, and I'm sure everybody else in Lake Arrowhead has a similar feeling. Thanks.
Nice to hear positive feedback. Thank you, Bridget. Okay, so correspondence in our packets this week. We have the.
Can I speak on the hearing and delegation?
Oh, you're chomping at the bit.
Yes, I am. I brought a map up here and I gave you all information on the events that have taken place as of yesterday on the Dollar General store. I got a map over here, and if you'll, when you have time to read it, you'll see that the refusal of, I can speak loud enough so they can hear me. This, there was no review done of the traffic study that was done for Dollar General. So, in light of all the controversy that was stirred up, I decided to hire a private consulting firm that specializes in traffic studies. So I hired them personally to represent me as myself, not the Public Works Director, not anything, to represent me, to put an end to the controversy. So as you will see after you read the letters that you have, the first letter is from Tom Gorel to the Northeast Civil Solutions, asking them to complete the roads projections that they done. When I met with him the first time, he looked at the papers and he said, "Where's the rest of them?" I said, "That's all there is. I can't make sense of it." He said, "Well, you can't make sense of it because they never finished it. They never did the conclusion to the study. They got all of the information, but they never put the final numbers to the test to see whether the stacking issue on Chadwell Ridge Road was an issue, and whether the entrance with the radius met the standards that have to be met for these projects." And he said, "Do you want us to do that?" And I said, "No, I want you to write a letter to Bill Gray, who did the work for Civil Solutions, and ask him to complete it." I then wrote a letter to Northeast Civil Solutions and said, if after review of this, after your person reviews it and completes the necessary paperwork, and Tom Gorel reviews it, if it meets the standards that it has to meet, I will issue a driveway permit. So I haven't heard anything for some time. That first letter went out on February 25th. Yesterday I got this information over the box, and along with it, I got a brand new plan. Once they did the study, it does not meet any type of standards. Now I gotta walk over there. In order to meet the standards, they've got to take the right-hand side as you turn onto Chadbon's Ridge Road. Thank you. And they've got to increase the radius 10 feet, make it 10 feet wider. At that point, W67 truck can come around that corner and pull into Dollar General's driveway without encroaching on the westerly bound lane of Chadbon's Ridge Road. In exiting, they do not meet the queue, which, for simple words, you call it stacking, on this side of the road over here, on the, again, going westerly. They needed to have more than 2 cars to meet the specifications that was required for a development. They did not meet that. If there was more than 1 car sitting at the intersection, a W67 truck could not pull out and align itself in the proper lane. It would block both lanes of Chadbon's Ridge Road, which was unacceptable. So what they have done is come back and said that this is a brand new plan. They would like to increase the radius by 10 feet and make a wider lane to pull up here. That will allow them to pull up and not block the westerly lane. And in order to leave the site, they can't, there's no way they can do this. And Tom Goro of Goro Palmer said, let's flip it. And they said no, they do not want to flip it, which would have put, they said, the back of the store toward Route 5, which would have given the sunny side, but they didn't want to do that. So in turn, they came and said, we will build an exit road for all vehicles onto Route 5. Now both of these changes have to go before MDOT because this is a state road and they own part of this. We'd also have to give them permission to widen out our road. This is, you know, even though it's you know, was happy to see it, it's not the conclusion to the whole problem because what we now know that their figures don't work. What happens if the state of Maine will not allow them to do this? Where do we go from here? I told them if they did the necessary evaluation and then made the changes, we would issue a permit. If they don't do them, they still don't meet it. And if you look at page number 2, you can see one reason why they've been slow to want to do this. Before, they were going to use just a straight sheet drain across this project. Now, we have to go over here and dig a detention pond, regrade the front of this, bring the water this way, put a cross culvert in to get the water to come over here. So, they're going to have substantial additional cost. So I just wanted to bring this up, that they have submitted a plan. I don't know what the next step is. Anybody got any questions? There's a lot on your agenda, so I'll move you along.
All right, thank you very much, Doug. Correspondence, we have the treasurer's report. We have a listing of prior consent agreement decrees prepared by the CEO as requested. And we have the motor vehicle agent's February 2015 report. Moving on to reports and staff initiatives, Code Enforcement Office, to start, discuss, vote to approve a consent agreement. So the CEO, we have in our packets a request on a parcel of property belonging to the Donaldsons, and if you could, Glenn, just kind of fill everybody in on that.
Good evening, Board. My name is Glenn Charette, Code Officer for this town of Waterboro. Kyle and Megan Donaldson, Doug, I think that's yours? Yeah. I actually don't know how long they've owned that property, but 2010. They are present tonight with their realtor, Tom Worcester. They are not the instigators of the violation. They purchased the property with the violation intact. Tom Worcester is here tonight to talk about about their situation. In my opinion, they should not be levied a fine other than the cost of a lawyer fee. Someone's got to pay for that, and the town should not. So it's my recommendation to the Donaldsons at least pay for that. Obviously, that decision is with the board.
And Glenn was able to get costs for legal expenses to date. We're looking at about $500, $481 as of a week or so ago.
That's correct. Anything more from me?
Questions of Glenn? And your recommendation is to go forward with the consent
Go
agreement?
forward with the consent agreement in establishing a fine of $500.
Somebody from the Donaldsons would like to speak?
You can. Go ahead. I don't know. I have lots to
He knows what to say.
Yeah.
I'm Tom Worcester with Real Estate 2000, and my wife Kathy and I are the listing agents on their house located at 7 Pace Landing in Waterboro. About a week and a half ago, we were scheduled to close, and 2 days before closing, a mortgage survey came through to the title company showing that there was a setback violation on Long Causeway Road. It was supposed to be 75 feet, it was 70 feet. The Donaldsons had no knowledge of this, obviously, and they've been the owners since 2010. The prior owner owned the property for 20 years, and that was Kathleen Herrick, and Ferrick, I mean. And actually, I did do some research on that, and she financed the property 13 times during that 20 years, and this never popped up. It's something we don't have control over, and that some banks require a mortgage survey, and some don't. And a buyer's at their mercy when they do or they don't. So the Donaldsons currently live in Connecticut now. They came up tonight. They're here, and we can't set a closing without solving this issue.
And we really need to sell the house before it goes to foreclosure.
Any questions for the board?
I just have one. When you purchased the property and financed it, did the bank at that time require a mortgage survey?
Our lender did.
You can thank them. I would go after them for the $500.
Yeah, we have filed a claim with our title insurance in hopes that they are held responsible.
Any other questions, comments from the board? Is there a motion?
Yeah, I'd move we approve the consent decree as prepared and the costs associated with that, with what we have in it for legal fees at this point, which I think you said was $500.
Is there a second?
I will second that. So we do not have an actual figure until then.
We do have an
I
actual
think
figure
it's-
from the town attorney.
It's for
I believe it was 481 and change.
481 is what Glenn was able to get last week, or?
Yeah, that in her statement was so far. So she said 481 so far.
Okay.
And I'm sorry I haven't been in communication with her since that last one, and I
Well, she hasn't done anything else since she prepped them.
not that I know of.
Okay.
So the motion is the final cost
The motion
to the
is,
town.
yeah, his motion was for $500,
Oh, okay, I thought.
which should
I
cover.
mean, they have the obligation to register the consent decree at Alfred or in the county
Exactly.
registry, so they're gonna have to end up paying that anyway. It's not something that we're gonna do, so.
Okay. So the second stands.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor of approving the consent decree with a $500 fine? Okay,
It's
vote's done.
481.
We voted 500, so,
So is that 500 total?
Yes.
Plus
Yeah.
the 481?
no, $500, period.
Okay,
That's it.
all right,
So the $500 will cover our legal fees,
okay,
okay?
thank you.
You're welcome.
Madam
Yes.
Chair,
Which,
I want the minutes to clarify that they need to pay the cost of registering that, so it's $500 plus the cost of register at the register of deeds.
26.
And
Yeah,
they need to
that's-
document that.
And they'll do that
So
on,
we're doing that
I
tomorrow.
need to see documentation.
Well, if they don't register it, they don't sell the house, basically, right? So
Correct.
it's-
It has to be recorded before they sell it out.
It'll be done tomorrow morning.
okay, we're all set.
Just want to know the process from here, because we need to get this done before we can set up the
We have the
closing.
original in our packet here to sign.
I have some here if you don't.
I do.
We'll sign this, we'll give it to Christina, she can take care of getting you the copies and whatnot, and if you touch base with her, she can tell you what else you need to do.
As far as the payment of the bond, that goes to her.
Christina will take care of that, everything you need to do.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You around tomorrow? I mean, you want to swing it in the morning, or what would you rather?
We'll wait.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is, whether it's on the record or not, this won't be the last one in Pace Landing. It wasn't the first one in Pace Landing.
Thank you, Dennis.
We've heard that as well.
Second item on the agenda that involves the code enforcement office is a report on the unsightly property list.
Thank you.
First of all, this list does not include every single property that is a dangerous building or nuisance property in the town of Waterboro. The list wasn't created by me, so it lacks,
Hold on just a second. Could I maybe ask you folks to step outside, because we do need to finish up our meeting? Okay, sorry, Glenn.
it lacks some pertinent information like addresses and map lot numbers. So I can locate some of these and some of them I can't locate. I'm hearing background noise. The list shows the items highlighted in red are properties that have been abated. Abated means the nuisance has been taken care of or the building has been demolished and removed. I think the board will recognize a few of these. There are some new ones that I have recognized in town in the last month or so that I've been here. With so much snow, I can't really tell what the violations are, so I'll ask for patience from the board until I can get a more visual aspect of what's going on. And we will use what we have to make them comply. Any questions on the list?
There's probably some updates. I know that the old Deering estate, the part of the barn and everything has been torn down, and they've at least shored up the two buildings across the street, so somebody's been in there and
They did do that.
done some things.
When did they do that? I haven't been up there for a while.
It was probably just before the snow flew.
Is that the Leon place that we're talking
The old Deering place, right up at the corner of Bennett Hill Road and Deering Ridge Road.
about? Oh, okay, that, the other side.
Yeah, both sides of the road, they've shored up. The one building is still, if the oak tree it's leaning on ever blows over, the building's gone, but they have removed all of the, I would say, the old carriage house and everything, and left the barn, which seems to be structurally sound.
Okay.
That's standing there, and the last I knew was they were trying to find somebody to take that down and preserve the barn. I don't know whether that will happen or not.
In your travels, if any of the member of the board sees such a property, if I can get just an address, it would expedite my job.
The Garnet property, that's the one that I'm most interested in, because he was given multiple opportunities to clean up that trailer in the back, and we authorized to move forward with legal action to get that done, and it just has never been resolved. So that should be a priority one.
And that's why it's on the top of the list.
Good.
I think we still have that authority. As soon as the snow goes away and that excuse is removed, then we can take care of that.
We will take care of that. The Cressy property, which all of you are familiar with, Patco Company owns that property, and they have a demolition permit in place for that, and they've had it in place since early 2014. So I've sent them actually a second violation notice because that's a procedure. And Greg Pedersen assured me that that property would be cleaned up by June 2015.
Is the permit that he currently has still in full force and effect till June?
It is, that is correct.
Okay, so he doesn't know.
Yep, that is correct. The only other two properties that I know of personally is Andrew McClaskey and Shirley Hawkins. If you look at all these addresses, most of them are on Main Street in Waterboro. The two I've known these two because I've passed them a lot, and now they're on the list. They passed the meaning of a junky yard, so we'll be able to take care of that with the rules that we have in place.
Good. Okay. Any questions, comments for Glenn?
One follow-up question. Do we still need this board to change that definition of nuisance to
We
make
don't
these
need
happen?
to. I'd like to have it changed to what I propose, but we don't need to.
Okay, good, thanks.
What I propose is just taking what the state says we can do and putting it in our ordinance so everybody knows it's there and can read it out of our book.
Okay.
Thank you, Glenn.
Thank you.
Selectmen's reports. We'll start with Gordon.
Okay, thank you. One is I know that Mike Christie's son was at regionals, I guess, and did very well. He ended up one match going into 4 overtimes. That he was subsequently, I guess, defeated by 1 point in that one. But he won several matches prior to that, so I give the kudos to him. The other thing is I had occasion to go to the 12-town group meeting last night, and the speaker was Fletcher Kittredge of GWI, and he was talking about a fiber optic network called the 3-ring binder, which it's a mechanism that the federal government wants to institute within the state of Maine, and has instituted part of it already, where there's going to be connectability for fiber optic transmissions, so that you can access gigabit technology, and it'd be particularly advantageous for people that work at home, in the computer environment, and it's also going to impact the streaming of television and so forth directly through the internet versus a cable. He says that the system is far more reliable. It is exceedingly faster than what we have currently, but then again there is a cost to it. It's still in the early stages right now, but I think that it's time for people to start thinking about this. As far as he knew, he thinks Sanford is putting out an RFP on that, so that they can bring it in there, and it's one of the byproducts of that is a great enhancement to economic development for a community. There's been some communities that have had business that had entertained the thought of moving to their particular town, but when they found out that there was no fiber optic or gigabit service, that they relocated elsewhere. So there'd be a significant impact for communities to have that available, to whatever industrial park they want to develop and so forth. But all along this route, which is, I guess, the information superhighway, which is what we commonly refer to as the internet, but this is all those people that live along the corridor. Let's say that they go up Route 5, Everybody along that corridor, all the way up through, could be connected to fiber optic all the way up, as far as that system goes. So you should put it on your radar and be kind of watchful of any new developments that take place regarding that. Have I pretty much covered it, Dave?
So medical monitoring was a biggie too.
Oh, yes, that's right. One of the products of this was medical monitoring, so that people don't have to stay in hospitals for as long as they sometimes do, that physicians can monitor patients' welfare right from their home. The physicians can, schedule tests in the hospital, and that information is instantaneously conveyed to, just for an example, your radiologist or another specialist, and you get a diagnosis that quick without having to go from, let's say, Sanford to Portland down to Boston or whatever. You can get it fiber optically right, to the doctor's office. They can monitor your physical situation from your residence. So the technology is, pretty rewarding all the way around. So.
Is there a projected time period as far as?
No, it's still, right now it's in the infant stage in Maine. The rest of the country, or a good portion of the rest of the country, is already on board with this. New England, particularly Maine, is far behind the technological 8-ball at the moment, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, because as great as this technology is, there's probably still bugs in it, and we'll let the other communities elsewhere work all the bugs out, so that when we get the final product, we're getting the benefit of their trial and error method. So it's not necessarily a drawback that we're last, but it's certainly something that we want to be considering, to get on that train when it comes by. So, yeah.
Gordon, is that the same setup that Rockland has instituted?
Yeah.
As part of Rockland, is all wired very fast speed? Dave, do you know?
I believe
there are
Rockland was
other
on there.
there are other municipalities that have come up with.
Right.
They have invested their own money and grant
Right.
money into the expansion.
South Portland is going to be financing their own, rather than what Mr. Kittredge was conveying to us is that a lot of this could be funded by the service providers for internet connections and so forth. They're the ones that would pick up the tab, with some contributions by the municipality. If that doesn't always take place, municipalities can do their own initiative and fund it themselves, so that they can get on board with it that much quicker. And I guess there's some federal grant money that is available for that. There's a company called Connect Me, which is, I guess, one of the front runners in Maine on developing this system. So, have I covered everything there? Okay.
Thank you, Gordon.
You're welcome.
John?
Library Board of Trustees met last Thursday, and Bridget's here as the chair, so she can clear up anything that I'm saying that got misinformation. But it's just shortly, I'll say that there's a lot of things going on as usual. There's the silent auction that's happening right now, so anybody that's interested in looking at some bids that they can put in. It's right there in the children's section of the library. I think we spent most of the time talking about bylaws and kind of going over and updating the bylaws, which is nice to see, because all committees should be doing that on a regular basis. So that was what I saw, the major part of the meeting there. I went to the garden club, had a meeting, and it's kind of weird to sit in there and and meet with the garden club when it's 15 below zero and there's 4 feet of snow out there. So it's a long ways away.
It's the community garden, John,
The community garden.
which is different from the garden.
Okay. Yeah. The community garden, not club. It's not a club. It's a committee. Community garden committee. I think the part of the discussion there was the shed that's being built out. That which is since winter, since late November, nothing has been able to be done to that. So there was a couple of issues. One, finishing it, cleaning up the grounds around it so it looks pretty good, doing a painting job, not paint, but staining it. And then there's an issue that was brought up too, is the size of the door. I think we had a door and said, okay, put it in. But if you're going to have anything, any lawnmowers or anything like that, you're not going to be able to get it through that door. You can get hose and rakes and stuff like that, but anything big. So there's questions about putting another door in. And the committee realized that that is number one on the list before getting to doing any hothouse or setting up anything in that line to finish that project. So that's first on the list, and probably my guess is it'll be mid-late April. Another thing that was talked about too is better ways to get people involved that have plots, that get involved in communicating with each other and offering help to other people that may need it. Some people come in and they're starting a garden, they really don't know what they're doing. And there's a person right next to him with a garden, like Judy Carl, who things grow for. They just know how to do it. And if and if the person doesn't know that Judy's there and can do this, there's a great source of information. So we were talking about Saturday mornings when a lot of people come in and do their gardening. It may be a time for some of the master gardeners to show up and just make themselves available. So that was pretty much a major part of the talk there.
Dennis?
A couple of things. EcoMaine has announced the art contest again this year. The people have been painting the silver bullets, so that competition will go on again this year. Entry has to be submitted by March 27th if you want to be a successful group or artist that wants to paint a silver bullet for the contest. So that's gone on for a number of years, and you'll see various silver bullets around the EcoMaine communities that have some pretty artistic paint on them.
How many do we have available that can be used as canvas, so to speak?
Well, I think there's probably there's certainly a limit, but I think the 3, 4 that we have access to, none of them have been painted. So, and I would assume if somebody locally got selected, that they would probably do one of the ones that doesn't necessarily. But all those silver bullets, just remember that those aren't owned by the individual towns; they're owned as a group by EcoMaine, which we're an owner of, but they're not exclusive to the town of Waterboro. So, just another heads up that EcoMaine is now, from a recycling and waste to energy, serves 25% of the entire state of Maine's population, with all of the member communities and those that have been brought in. The only other thing, the EDC is meeting, trying to wrap up their portion of their chapter of the comprehensive plan of the 2020 committee. I think they've come a long way. I know they're meeting again next week in a special meeting. But for those of you that don't know, the town is now a member of the Biddeford-Saco Chamber of Commerce. And they are running their first, what is it? After hours or whatnot, and it will be at the Biddeford Savings Bank on March 19th from 5 to 7. And it will be the Chamber's first event in this area. So it's not this is not a web event, this is a Biddeford-Saco Chamber of Commerce event.
Okay.
And everybody's invited for that. Yeah, and just to go along with what Gordon was saying, GWI was also, representatives were also at the Business Summit. And there's a lot of talk about that being a key piece of the infrastructure needs in Waterboro going forward relative to economic development. So it's on that list, or their list.
Thanks, Dennis. I attended the road review committee, had a special meeting, and a couple of things that came out of that. They reviewed the final draft of the driveway ordinance that they want to put forward to the board, and we have that on the agenda a little bit later. They also were talking about bylaws and what the purpose of the committee is, and they've requested to have a workshop with the Selectmen on April 14th to talk about what they've done to date so far and what the board of Selectmen would like to see the committee doing in the future. They want to work on projects that are going to have meaning within the community and are projects that the Board of Selectmen would support. So we'll look at scheduling a workshop with them in April. Town Administrator's report after he's done destroying the calendar over there.
Come on.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In terms of our vacancies in the front office position, we've gone from 143 applications down to 14, and I've spoken with 2 of those in an informal sense, and I was hoping to wait and get a feel from Budget Committee as well as possibly Board of Selectmen whether or not we wanted to fill that full part-time or at all, since we're in the budget season. And I was hoping that information might come to me next week. We'll see if that Budget Committee and workshop with the Selectmen happens, but certainly we have some good applications with considerable town hall experience as well, which is nice to see. I've pretty much completed all my recommendations to the Budget Committee, and probably later tonight or first thing tomorrow morning I'll be sending them the final document that is in Excel that will be my recommendations with a cover memo, and then they will do their thing either tomorrow night or possibly in combination with another meeting next week and get their recommendation to the Board of Selectmen. Concerning Dollar General, Doug brought you up to speed about some things, and just so the public knows, that information came into Town Hall today by email, so this is very new. There's still some things that I haven't even read when that are included into the email as attachments. So we've got some more homework to do there. I would envision the applicants would obtain the DOT permits before ever going back to the planning board, and so everything would be wrapped up and they could hopefully do one planning board meeting to get this amendment approved, if that's where we end up. I joined a meeting today with the DEP Shoreline Zoning Coordinator with the Code Officer to try and get some more history of why this town does not have a proper shoreline zoning map. We learned a few new things. We also discovered, thanks to Doug or others, that found a draft map in Sebago Technics that is really pretty far along and we're not going to take a lot of work to finish. So that's a good thing. We need to have a shoreline zoning map, and Glenn and I will be working on that in the months to come. And I don't think Doug mentioned it, but the roads are posted now in town, and obviously will be for some time, hopefully right through until spring breakup. And nomination papers will be available in Town Hall tomorrow for Board of Selectmen, and I believe, Gordon, you're up this time around, and then Water District and School Board. So if you want to run for office, papers will be available tomorrow. That's it for me. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Gary. All right, moving on to business, conduct a quarterly budget review, and Gary, I'll turn that over to you as well.
I don't get a break to go over and fix the calendar,
No,
I guess.
it's gonna drive you nuts.
All right. Well, this is a bit delayed. This is a review through the end of December of 2014. For 50% of the year, we're just under that in terms of expenses. And I have a list here of things that folks at home won't be able to go through, but I'm going to walk the Board of Selectmen through if you wish me to go down through this list.
I've read it. Why don't we just at least skim it?
Okay. Rather than flip the pages, I would just say that liability line was up by almost $1,000. It was an unanticipated increase on my part. There was a salary correction for the IT department that was not in the employee's favor. That was a mistake, and I'll assume that one. And that line is up above 50% because of substantial vacation buyout, which an employee is entitled to. If they're not going to use that vacation time, they can get bought out for it, and it happens in December. Slight over expenditure and code enforcement line. Glenn needed some code books, and they're very expensive, and we didn't have them, so I authorized that, and that will be an over expenditure there. Recreation is the stumper for me in terms of lights apparently costing $400 to $500 a month at Lions Field, but they didn't cost that much in 2012. So I really don't know what happened. We've got to do some more homework with CNP. Because this account is going to be way over budget by the end of the year. We can look at the history of when these big bills are, and I think they're football and softball months of the year. I just don't understand the numbers.
So, do we know, I mean, you can drive by that field anytime in the fall at night, and there's either pee-wee football practice going on over there, there's all kinds of activity.
Yep.
Do we know when those activities are taking place, and are we recording? I mean, I understand some of that stuff, certainly it's part of recreation, town's gonna eat that a little bit, but, you know, there's a lot of activity that takes place down there that we may or may not have a good handle on, and when the lights go on, when they come off, and there's nothing on a timer. I think it's all has to be manually done, right?
If we could stagger them and turn a bank on, I think there's 6 or 7 switches every 15 minutes, then we could cut our price. But that would take you an hour and a half to turn the lights on.
Well, then the next question is, you know, what's the possibility of changing them out and putting in, you know, these new LEDs? And I mean, there's been so much movement towards LEDs, and Efficiency Maine will help pay for some of that fixtures and stuff. Is that an alternative? And I guess I would ask CMP, why does the rate double? Are we on a variable rate there, or are we?
We're on what's called a medium commercial. I can't remember the term the nice lady on the phone used, but she said every time you flip that's asking for 34 kV in that 15-minute window, and you're going to pay for that whether you do it once or.
So did that change in a year's time?
We were paying in the $200 bracket in 2012, and we just haven't had enough time to do all the homework necessary around that. Stay tuned, I guess. General assistance is up slightly. We budgeted for 1 cremation, which is just under $800. We did 2. The comp plan and 2020 committee expenses are well over the 50% mark because of the work they've been doing cranking out final chapters and printing costs. A lot of folks went to the business summit, which was very successful, run by the EDC, and they've spent most of their $5,000 for the year, which is why that's well over the 50% mark. Other seasonal things, we pay Lake Arrowhead $3,000 for milfoil control. We pay that once a year, so there'll be no more expenses there. And the cable TV rate increased after our present budget was finalized and went up almost $3,400. So that was unplanned for. On the revenue side, we're just under 50% collected of our tax commitment, $5.2 million out of the 10.5, and the other tax bill is due, I believe, April 15th or 16th. And other revenues, we've collected 56% of the budgeted revenue, so I'd say we're pretty much on track on the revenue side as well. And I'll be meeting with Dennis on some other more detailed things that he brought tonight that I could use some help with. So that's it for me.
Any questions for Gary?
Just one of my favorite topics. Roscommon Fire Department hasn't pulled a dime this year. I can't imagine they're running that department up there for nothing. So we still haven't got any discipline in their billing, I guess.
Once they pay for items, we get a bill for the amount that we owe them, which I find to be a very interesting way of helping them out. They bill Alfred, Shapley, and Waterboro about equally.
But they haven't pulled it, as of, through the first half of the year, they didn't pull a dime.
Yep.
I don't know if they've now, now that we're almost through another quarter, whether they have or not, but.
I believe something came in after
After
the
Christmas.
first half of the year, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not, it's not a lot of money, it's what, 10,000, or 8,900 or something like that.
8,400
Yeah.
in the eights.
But it's just, we've gone through this before where all of a sudden we're getting ready to close out books or a year and they send in bills.
They were good last year. That wasn't at the very end last time around.
And maybe we ought to put a bug in their ear to,
Well, I still don't
Clean up their
understand why
expenditures.
they come directly to us. Everything should run through Matt, but that's another story. The only other question I had for you quickly is, you showed the ATV grant money, those expenditures, but I didn't see where that money came in. We're bookkeeping the expense, but we're not bookkeeping the revenue. Somewhere it's gotta be a wash, but we can talk about that later.
I don't remember when that did.
Anything else? All right, we'll move on. Discuss vote to approve a change of zone request fee. Gary, you want to talk about that as well?
Most communities, if you're going to change a zone, have a significant fee to do that, and the suggested fee from, not sure if it was planning board as well as town planner, was $500, but that was the suggested amount that has been forwarded to me. I think it's fair. There can be a considerable amount of work in doing this behind-the-scenes staff time.
is that if a homeowner wants their parcel of property rezoned, is it?
If you're changing a zone line on the town zoning map, that's what this fee would be for.
Could be
Yeah, I think
anybody.
if you go look at what it cost us to change the zone through legal costs and everything else, to change the zone in East Waterboro, I would guess that it was well over $500.
John, did you have a comment?
Well, I was just thinking that, most of the zoning change should come from within, from the planning board. But when an individual comes forth, that's, and if the planning board hasn't foreseen that, then I would think that it would be a low percentage of success there, getting spot zoning through. So anyway,
Doug, do you have a comment?
If you change one word on a subdivision plan after it's approved, the price is $1,000. If you remove one word from your subdivision plan, the price is $1,000. If you completely renovate your plan, it's $1,000. So to change your zone, it seems to me that it ought to be, you either ought to lower the cost of what it costs to change one word on a subdivision plan, or increase the cost of what it costs to change your zone. Kind of no parallel in the two costs whatsoever. And it would seem like a lot more work for the town to change their zoning maps than it is for the developer to bring in a new set of plans.
Okay. Anything else? Good? Okay. So what's the pleasure of the board?
The request is $500? What is it today, if anything?
I don't think it's zero.
So let's start with getting at least halfway to what Doug's suggestion is, and I would move that we immediately implement a $500 fee for anybody requesting a change of zone,
Is there a second?
other than internally, naturally.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Okay. Moving on.
Madam Chair, if
Oh,
I
yeah.
may, I'd like to make a motion that we review this within 1 year's time to determine if that figure is adequately meeting our costs, and if not, we can at that time determine whether or not we want to increase the fee so that our costs are covered.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any
I'm not sure how
discussion?
often we do it.
I mean, yeah, it's just gonna be hard to come up with a cost. I mean, you're talking about planning board time, you're talking about all sorts of research and site walks and stuff like that. So it's gonna be really, really hard to figure out what the actual cost is.
Can I, since I voted in the affirmative, could I move that we reconsider this?
I'll withdraw my motion.
Okay, you'll withdraw your second.
And I would move that we reconsider the previous vote.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor of reconsideration of the previous vote? Okay.
Right. Now I'd like to make a motion that we charge $1,000 for a change. Because it just kind of hit me that these young folks that we just had a consent order and came up with legal fees was $500. So $1,000 is really quickly spent. So I would say let's set it at $1,000.
Okay. So is there a second to $1,000?
I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor of the fee being $1,000? Okay.
That's a quick year.
It was a quick year, yeah.
All right. Moving on, discuss vote to schedule public hearings on the proposed driveway ordinance. So in your packets, you have two different proposals for driveway ordinances. One has been presented by the Road Review Committee, and one has been presented by the Planning Board. Both have had legal review, and comments from the attorney are in both. There are some notes to change on the proposal that was presented by the Road Review Committee. Section 6.B.2, which is on page 4 of that proposal, neglects to list the size of trucks, the length of a commercial vehicle. So that needs to be clarified, and that needs to be filled in. And the other thing that the Road Review Committee has requested is that under Section 11, effective date, it currently reads, this ordinance shall be effective when enacted by a town meeting, and they wanted it to be when enacted by the Board of Selectmen. So those are two requests that they made to have changes.
Should we have a definition of commercial vehicle in there? Because a vehicle can be commercial, but it can be several different sizes. And would want to make sure that it adequately reflects, the maximum size of a commercial vehicle that may be using that.
You could have a cab.
Yeah.
Well, a commercial vehicle will be registered as a commercial vehicle.
I know, but you can have a commercial vehicle that's 15 feet long versus one that's 38 feet long, let's say.
Which is, I believe, why they want to fill that blank in.
Well, I know, but what's it should be a maximum figure then. So that it covers all commercial vehicles.
Yep. Charlie?
Charlie Drapo from the Road Review Committee. That last paragraph that we discussed this afternoon with Gary, we feel that was put in by the attorney. And Gary's going to contact the town attorney tomorrow, right, on that, get clarification. And at the same time, could you get maybe a legal definition of what commercial vehicle is? Is that something that we could get from an attorney, or is that something that we should, I'm not sure, but.
The DOT could probably give us a pretty good definition.
Yeah.
DOT?
Well, I guess if it has commercial plates, and we put a length limit on it here, wouldn't that close that loop?
But I think what Gordon's saying, I mean, I could have a car that says commercial on it, right? Or
a pickup truck,
pickup truck, and then
registered commercial
and then
versus a tractor trailer truck.
yeah, then a truck from Hood Ice Cream would be coming in. So there's two different sizes, but
Yep.
This only lists the minimum length. If it's a minimum length, then anything above that length. If it's got commercial plates and it's 24 feet long, everything above that has to have a special review.
Okay. As long as we adequately cover it, that's, however
That's
the
what
wording
it
needs
says,
to be.
with a minimum length of 24 feet. So it's longer than 24 feet. That needs, to be put in there. It needs a dot in the middle of the sentence, and then it's set to go.
Okay.
Bridget?
Gary, is that the sentence that we discussed this afternoon, that it is involving driveways within 50 feet of the intersection?
Yes.
So that whole statement is what you called, I mean, our ordinance says we can't have a driveway within 50 feet. So why are you then worrying about what the length of the truck would be if it's within 50 feet? Because we can't have a driveway within 50 feet.
Because the whole point of the contention of the Dollar General came with the length of the truck, and our ordinance did not address it. That's why this needs a period. No driveway shall be permitted within 50 feet of an intersection, period.
Okay.
And then it should start again and say, in cases where a vehicle, a truck, a commercial vehicle, is more than the minimum of 24 feet, it shall meet, the requirements as directed. So I understand that that's going to be corrected and then given back to you, right?
Yeah. I'm going to talk to the town attorney tomorrow, because on the next page, from what you and I discussed today, in another section, we already have that 50-foot restriction in this ordinance. So I'll rely on her to say whether or not we even need that bold text that's in question here.
Okay, thank you.
So we have that one, and then we have the other ordinance was presented by the planning board, and that was with input from our CEO. And the town attorneys also had the opportunity to review that and make some comments on that as well. So Gary's had conversations with Natalie, and we have a couple of options here. Because we have two different ordinances that have been presented to us, we could publish both ordinances to go to public hearing and take comment on both ordinances, and then the board could decide from there to adopt one or the other, or even go back and take pieces from both and do something that the board creates. Or if we want to vote to approve one or the other and send just one to the public hearing, then we could do that as well. Natalie is available to be here at the March 24th meeting. We could say that we're going to schedule the public hearing, get those changes made in the one that the road review committee has put forward, and have time to publish those in time to have a public hearing on the 24th. And then Natalie could be here for the public hearing to answer any questions that come up, comment on any public comments, and kind of help guide us through that. So it's up to the board on, do we want to put both forward for public hearing, or do we want to choose one or the other?
I guess my preference would be to at least have two clean copies, because this is ridiculous. We've got X'd out, we got orange copy, we got blue copy, we got stuff that's got CEO in it, we've got stuff that's got Gary in it, we've got something that's got
Well, that was for the board's benefit, Dennis, so
Well,
that
it
we
didn't
knew
help me
what
at all, I'll tell you
what the
that.
changes were.
So, let's get 2 clean documents and then make a decision of which one of those we're gonna take to a public hearing.
Well, you have all that information in front of you. I knew I would have probably got tagged if I hadn't sent you all the changes, so that's why I did what I did. You can read that document that once we accept all the changes, will be that clean copy you asked for. But I certainly wanted to and thought it was my job to show you what had
Yeah,
changed,
I-
because it was considerable. You needed to see those, whether you wanted to or not. Is another question.
I understand we needed to see them, but I will tell you what, it takes more than, a few minutes to go through this and digest what's going on.
Yes.
Tim?
Can I just say something?
Yeah.
Sorry,
Are you
my
gonna
phone fell
contaminate
asleep.
us all?
No, I'll keep it at a distance. My name's Tim Neal. I know the road review committee's put a lot of work into this ordinance, a lot of work. And, the planning board too, and I'm not gonna pass judgment on either one, But, I know it's hard to involve the public a lot when the public doesn't involve themselves, but I hate to see something like this that's so far-reaching, it has such an effect on people, even though you have the authority to pass this yourselves. I think that this is something that should go to the voters. I think the idea of at least looking at both ordinances at a public hearing would be a good place to start. But, I think, we really, it's the taxpayers that make up the town, and, we get caught up in the process. A lot of this stuff is inside baseball, and, we all know what's going on. But as much as possible, I think we should try to include the people that have put the bill. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. John?
I just think that most people are going to say, what are the major differences between the two? And what really counts? What are the major difference? Most people, there's a lot of stuff in here that most people don't want to get into that minutia, don't understand it, and don't want to understand it. But just say, okay, you got 2 ordinances here. Tell me the major differences, and I think that's the way most people are going to want to look at it. And that, in a sense, that's the way I want to look at it. Is tell me what the differences are. And I don't see a public hearing coming in here and people having gone through the nuances of both of these and try to figure out which is better.
I think that you'll be quite surprised at the number of public members have comment on this. Gordon?
I'm in favor of publishing both because I want to avoid the possibility somewhere down the road that we were playing favorites over the road review committee or the planning board. I think it ought to be totally transparent and out there, and we can iron it out so that we have one document that may be a hybrid of both that is satisfactory. But I don't want to get into the picking this apple over that apple.
I mean, in the end, we're going to have to.
Yeah, we're going to have to in the end, but I think that if we have input from the community on the aspects of both of them, and we can, it may be that we can combine some elements or delete an element from one or the other so that we end up with a final product that we can vote on.
I don't want to go in 1 hour decide which 2 different committees spent hours and hours on and think that I'm going to be able to do a better job in 1 hour. And so I wish we had just one piece here. And now that we've got 2, I would. I mean, some people might want to get into the absolute specifics, but other people might wish to just have pointed out to them, here are the major differences here. And what each one of them is probably better than what we've got now is nothing. Mm-hmm. So let's get something, and one or the other.
Well, it's up to us to decide which one.
Yeah, but the thing is, if I'm creating a new one, a hybrid of the 2,
yep.
and we spend an hour and a half doing that, These guys have spent 6 hours or 10 hours or whatever,
A year.
a year putting it together, and we're tearing it apart in an hour and a half, and we get a better view? I don't think so.
Here's my dilemma, is that like any other planning or request for change or whatever, typically the process is that, you know, and in this case, it was a road review committee put something together and said, this is what we think. It goes to the planning board. The planning board should make a recommendation of we either support this or we don't support it, and these are the reasons for. Planning board, for whatever reason, decided, oh, we're going to come up with our own planning board. Well, if we had known that, we'd have had the planning board do it years ago. And unfortunately, that's where I see the dilemma here, is that we have a road review committee that put together something. If it was too far-reaching from the planning board's perspective, then address those issues that they thought were too far-reaching, so that at least we could have one document that had input from the planning board, and then we make the decision of whether or not those changes take place. For us to say, well, maybe we'll just, you know, like a deck of cards, fold these things together, it's not going to work, because I don't think that the two line up. So my view is the road review committee made a pitch. It went to the planning board and said, what do you guys think? They actually had a couple of sessions where they all worked together, right? And if there is that much differences of opinion between the two, then those issues in the driveway ordinance that the planning board had issues with should be culled out and addressed. We don't like this, okay, in section 1243. All right, and then I think then you have at least a document from the road review committee that is really the genesis of this whole thing. Hey, we're changing the driveway permit. It used to be on a page, now it's 28. Okay? And the planning board has got to make a decision of whether they endorse it, and if they don't endorse it, these are the changes that we would recommend. Not throw it away and here's a new one. Could have gone to the planning board by them a long time ago and said, give us a driveway permit. Because ultimately that's what we've happened now. Planning board decided they didn't like what the road review came up with, so they're going to come up with their own. That just is contrary to trying to put this thing to bed. Because we'll never put it to bed.
So Dennis, do you want to make a motion on that?
Well, at the risk of putting the planning board back in at least making a recommendation on the, because I think that's what's got to happen. Here's the revised with legal input road review committee's permitting application. All right? Planning board takes exception, and I guess that's the question. Do you endorse this to the planning board, or do you not endorse it? And if you don't endorse it, tell us the reasons why. Don't give us another document. I just don't, it doesn't make sense to me. And then we make the determination. It's like anything else that came through here, right? Whether, if you recall, when they changed the zone up here in the Waterboro Center, and I think the EDC was part of that, the original EDC, was they made the recommendation. That went to the planning board. The planning board said we either endorse it, we're going to change it, we're going to do whatever. And then it came back to us, we ran the public hearing, and it was done. So I just think that we've gone way off the rails here.
So
on a very simple process.
So instead of having a public hearing, I mean, I wouldn't be ready for that if that's what you want. We send the road review committee's version, make those corrections, do a clean copy. I know Dennis wants a clean copy. Send it to the planning board, say this is what's been produced. Either you endorse it, you don't endorse it. If you don't endorse it, then
what are the reasons why?
What are the reasons why? And then with that, then schedule a public hearing?
Right. I mean, the planning board's role in this is to recommend to endorse this or not to endorse it. That's the process. It might not be laid out that way, but I think that we've done this many times before, and that's how it's done.
So
and then we used to go, instead of to the Board of Selectmen, it went to the voters. And once the charter came in, that process doesn't mean that we can't go back to the voters. So my recommendation is that we now have legal opinion of the driveway, whatever we call it, opening permit or driveway ordinance. We have legal opinion on it. That should be cleaned up. It should be submitted back to the planning board and say, do you want it, do you endorse this or don't you endorse it? And if you don't endorse it, tell us why. And
Tell
we'll add
us
that
why,
up. Right.
not, and then they can go to the public hearing
So,
and
so,
tell the
right,
public.
send a letter back to the Board of Selectmen saying this is what we don't believe that this should be adopted in this format and this is the reason why.
So is that a motion, Dennis?
Yes, I'll make that as a motion.
Is there a second
I'll
to that?
second
Okay, any discussion?
In the discussion, don't we have two legal opinions? Don't we have a legal review of the road review committee and a legal review of the planning board
Yeah,
committee?
Yes.
I'm not sure how we got there, but the planning board evidently went out on their own and said, we're gonna come up with our own driveway permit.
Yeah. So we probably need to consolidate the legal opinion too.
Well,
Gary? Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's a legal opinion. She went and edited each document and made it, well, I guess what she would say, 99% ready for you to approve if you agree with the content. So, did she give a legal review of each? No, she edited each and changed considerably the text in it. I had one other point, and just going back to the charter, we have a road review committee appointed by selectmen, advisory capacity to public works director and town administrator. I understand Dennis's point, that's nice to be able to do that. But the road review committee can be, and by charter kind of is, separate and it's on its own to a certain extent anyway. I don't have a problem in doing this, if what Dennis has suggested, but that's not how the charter is organized with the road review committee.
Well, let's go back to the beginning.
The
beginning of why we were going to change the driveway permit, all right, was that we got this one-page thing that really doesn't mean anything. And in most cases, over the course of the years, somebody stuck it in front of the road commission, he signed it, and that was over it, all right? So we got a whole bunch of entrances that probably don't have the right size culverts in it, plus a number of things. We as a board, at the time, had the discussion with the road commissioner at the time, who was Doug. I believe that Tammy Jo and Doug were going to work the thing to come up with a revised driveway permit. That certainly became convoluted because of all of the things that should have, could have, would have been in there. So that task got pushed off by the board to the road review committee. So we asked the road review committee to come up with a revised entrance permit, which they've done. In order to process that, in my view, the process is hand it off to the planning board, say, guys, look at this, what does it mean? What do you like about it? What don't you like about it? Make a recommendation. Now, there was a couple of meetings, okay, and then there was some issues of it got changed, it shouldn't have got changed. And I don't know why the planning board decided, well, we'll write our own. They could have raised their hand a couple of years ago and said, well, we'll do this, and we could have saved everybody all the time in the road review committee. So I think the process hasn't been, the process of us working with a road review committee to get a document, I don't see anything wrong with that. We asked as a board for the road review committee to take that process on. They took it on. We've involved the planning board, and somehow, wherever, this thing went off the rails. And now we got two conflicting documents. Because my guess is they don't look, well, I know they don't look alike.
Madam Chair, if I may, the planning board did discuss the ordinance that the road review committee put forth, and the minutes will show the reasons why they didn't like that, and we can pull those minutes. Well, we can't pull them tonight, but we can have them tomorrow. They discussed it in detail, and they decided not to endorse it, and those reasons are also in the minutes. They then asked me to come up with something, and between the board and myself, that's the version of the planning board ordinance. So it's not like they ignored the road review committee's suggestions. They reviewed it and digested it and decided not to endorse it. And I will pull those minutes tomorrow and forward them to Gary for your review.
So that takes care of that.
Does that resolve the letter, Dennis?
Fine me.
Okay.
I guess I did not realize, and not anything that I read through here would have suggested that you were the author of the planning board's
Well,
driveway
I don't
access.
want to call myself the author. I might have been a driver.
Okay. And I guess my only question is that once we do that, do we, rather than having a second document, are there recommended changes to the existing document or the road review committee's document that can be folded into? Are they that are they that?
They are, there are some very significant disagreements, I would say, in the ordinance. And I was at a couple of the meetings that were held between road review and the planning board. And I don't think that you would get a document that would take both committees' views into account.
There was some mirroring of the two ordinances, slight, but there were some.
You know, like the name?
No, no, that is one.
They're different.
Doug?
You know, this turns out to be a slap in the face. Tammy and I were originally, about 3 years ago,
Has it been that long?
2.5. We've worked on it for a year and 2 or 3 months as a road review committee. And it was substantially before that you and I were asked to come up with a new road review, an ordinance between the two of us to replace the driveway ordinance. You did the research and come up with several municipalities and their driveway ordinances. And I think that right now it's time for the Board of Selectmen to take the time to look at some of these other ordinances. Okay? There isn't a thing in this ordinance that we didn't find, maybe one thing, okay, these ordinances, this ordinance that was written by the Road Review Committee wasn't found in another town ordinance. And for some of the statements that's been made, and for the planning board, without involving the Road Review Committee and the code enforcement officer, without even talking to the Public Works Department or the Road Review Committee, to come up with a document, I think is wrong. It's inherently wrong for them to do that. They're not out there working on the roads. The town of Waterboro has put in, since I took over being road commissioner, several $1 million into our roads. And everything that was done in the document that's put before you was to maintain these roads in their present condition and to be careful and to be wise with the improvements that were being made. All you got to do is get in your car and ride around. When somebody stands up here and makes a statement that all that the town has control over is the location of the driveway and the size of the culvert is wrong. Go to Scarborough. You want a driveway entrance permit? You give them an engineered plan of the elevation of your garage floor. That's the first thing you do. Okay? If you're above the road. If you're below the road, you have to give them a drainage plan. I know we do a lot of work in there. Look at some of these other ordinances. I just tell you that you really need to look at some other ordinances. And then go up on the Weber Road and look at the driveways where the people leave their cars in the road. Go up on the Osby Hill Road where the people leave their cars in the road. Go up on Blueberry Road where the people can't get up their driveways and the water runs down in them. Go up on the Middle Road where the water's washing the dirt out into the road, where we spend hours trying to clean out the ditches because the people won't maintain their driveways. There are reasons that this ordinance was written the way it is. And none of these were taken into consideration because the planning board just had a personal vendetta against me and the road review committee. That's what it boils down to. You know, you might as well call a spade a spade. You know, same thing with the Dollar General. It was a vendetta against me, from the chair of the planning board to the members of the planning board. And that's where this comes from. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. So, Dennis, your motion was to get the differences and whatnot. It sounds like we already would have that available
Yeah,
to us.
if we've already got that, then
Minutes, so that's-
before, I guess I would withdraw my motion,
Okay.
because I think if we can put that together, but before I vote to take this to a public hearing, I think we need to look at that.
Okay. So, you all set with that? You with
I'm all
that?
set with that, yeah.
I have a question.
Sure.
We need to look at what now? Are you
I want,
acknowledging?
this all started with a document that was produced by the Road Review Committee, all right? That went to the planning board. If we have the minutes of that meeting and the recommendations and whatnot of what they didn't like about it, okay, then I think that's what we need to look at.
Oh, okay.
I didn't like section this, I didn't like that, I don't like the grade. I mean, we've heard, emotional discussion here from both sides for the last year and a half, right? And part of this is because I don't think we stick to the process. We let this thing get beyond what the process should have produced.
Now I understand, thank you.
So, if we do that, what do you want to do after that, Dennis?
Well, I
Have
think
a
we
next
need
meeting?
to have an understanding, put it in the selectmen's packet, and then we'll vote to take it to public hearing.
Okay.
And in my view, we take one document to public hearing.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
wise. If there was two documents, I'd say let the public see both of them, but I agree that we should have a single document that goes forward.
That we endorse. Board of Selectmen endorse.
Well, we endorse it to go to public hearing,
Yeah.
and we take the comment from the public on what they like, that they don't like. And I think then you kind of lay it out and say, hey, they threw this thing under the bus, and we're back to ground zero. I mean, that may very well happen, but
Okay. So we'll have this as an agenda topic next time around,
On the 24th?
24th.
But the agenda item should be to vote to schedule a public hearing for the Road Review Committee's recommended driveway access entrance permit, or whatever we're gonna call it.
Okay.
That's what the vote should be.
Driveway ordinance,
Right.
also known as, or whatever.
Charlie?
Can I just say one thing? And maybe I'm tapping on the Doug here. My concern, though, with you guys having a public hearing on this document, the folks that are going to show up, in my opinion, and it's my opinion alone, are going to have a special interest in this document to better their own business or whatever. That's all I want
But
to
that's
say.
the,
I know, but yeah.
That's
if it was
the way it
a
is.
fire department ordinance,
Yeah, I know,
I mean, it's,
Well, I don't. Okay.
that's why we're in a small town,
Yeah.
right?
All right.
It's kind of the nature of the beast.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Unfortunately.
But
But
I'll
we
keep my mouth shut.
But we still love you, Charlie.
We'll reschedule that.
Can I just make a comment on that?
Yeah, sure, Tom.
I'll tell you, with public hearings, anything to get people out, you should be happy with. Because, I mean, I've seen people at the campground public hearing, people that were totally opposed because they didn't really understand what your ordinance was about. And if they come in, they get a chance to listen to you, don't assume they're all going to be out to sabotage you. I mean, that fills the seats, and I think you're getting off to a good start myself. Thanks.
Thanks, Tom. Okay, moving on. We kind of run into the same problem with the next issue. There's been an ongoing discussion about variances going before the planning board and whatnot. We got a version recommended by the town attorney. The planning board reviewed that and made some changes to it, and that's, I think, Glenn, you also did you have a role in that as well?
Yes.
So we have the one that's been submitted by Natalie that had legal review.
eliminated the planning board's involvement and changed some of the setbacks. The version that the planning board put forward doesn't change the setbacks, but eliminates the planning board's role in the variances. Gary?
One little clarification, that the version the planning board adopted sent all variance requests to the ZBA and didn't allow any ordinance provisions for slightly reduced setbacks. The version that Natalie did, at you folks' request to look at anyway, was very prescriptive criteria for an old pre-zoning lot. If they documented that it existed before zoning came to town, they could have slightly reduced setbacks automatically by ordinance and did not involve the planning board at all. So this is a much simpler decision than the driveway.
I see that as well. Planning board came up with something, it went for legal review, there was feedback from the legal review team, right? They've revisited that, that has to go, if that's their recommendation, that, because this is a planning board requested ordinance. End of the story, right? What is the planning board gonna ask us to approve or take to public hearing? We don't have two different committees, but what that final document has to be something that the town attorney agrees that they can defend. And I don't know, has the town attorney discussed personally with the planning board her recommendations or no?
Not since the final version, no. I mean, she edited these. These are both enforceable and legal in the way they're
So let me ask it a different way. Is the final document that the planning board, has the planning board presented a final document to the Board of Selectmen to approve?
Yes.
And take to public hearing?
You have that in your packet.
And has that been to public hearing?
No.
No.
Okay. So the planning board has to go back and run a public hearing.
Yes. And what I was hoping we could do is do it.
We can
In
do them
conjunction.
simultaneously, I guess we've done that before.
You just asked me if the planning board had a public hearing on the final version.
Yeah.
I think they might have.
They did at one time, I'm not
They did
sure.
on the original version.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
but
now,
this
now
was-
Natalie has come back and said, you know, time out. I recommend some word changes, et cetera, et cetera. The planning board has digested that, from what you're saying here.
Yes,
right?
they've seen this
Okay.
sometime.
And so have they said that we recommend that we adopt the language that Natalie has put in here, or?
There has been changes to, if they had a public hearing, there's been changes to that, because they certainly haven't had a public hearing on it since Glenn
so-
was here, and Glenn had input in the most current document.
I believe
that they
the process
proposed.
says that the planning board has to have a public hearing.
Yeah.
Now,
Yes.
But we
we've-
can run
We've
them in-
stretched that a little bit and run both public hearings simultaneously.
Yeah.
The only time that doesn't work is if there's changes that have to go back to the planning board.
Doug?
You know, Natalie come up with being that I was on the first group that was successful in 1978 to put forth a zoning ordinance in this town. And what we promised the people of the town at that time, which all of these implants don't know about, is that we would not take their rights away from them. That's why Section 208 is there. Section 208 has been a section that has never been legally challenged since its incorporation. Natalie come up with a version that would allow people to continue to own their land and do something with it. The planning board's version eliminates that because these lots, 90% of the lots in South Waterboro Village cannot meet the criteria to go before the zoning board of appeals and win an appeal. Because one of the things you have to do is prove that you can't get reasonable income back for the property that you have. My particular home, and I'll speak for myself, sits on 3 lots. I have a house lot right beside my house that's a separate lot. My garage is on a separate lot. My house next door is on 2 lots. My mother's house is on a separate lot. Under their direction, everything is gonna get the guillotine. You're all dead before you walk out the door. This is wrong. A good part of Ospey Lake, a good part of Middle Branch Pond, none of them can win an appeal. So Natalie's idea was come up with a set of setbacks. That's what we did in Lake Arrowhead when we created the village residential zone, was take it all away from the planning board. And what has been proposed by the planning board is utter bureaucracy at its worst. The code enforcement officer and the planning board have dealt the people of this town a tremendous blow after we promised them that we would not do that. And that's wrong. It's very wrong. I should be able to do something on my property. The people next door to me should. The people next door to them should be able to do something. We all shouldn't have to go before a board, pay a $50 fee to find out we can't do what we want to do. That's inherently wrong. And you look at East Waterboro, you look at Center Waterboro, and you'll find that those places cannot meet the requirements to go before the Zoning Board of Appeals. It just can't.
Can I respond to that?
Yes, Tim.
Just to put some facts into how this started, in the time I was on the board, Natalie recommended twice to us that we change this. It was her recommendation. The second time she said that a couple years, after the first time. What she gave us and what we sent to you was her recommendation. She told us that we should do that. She wrote up an ordinance for us, and we sent that to you. That was the original. I think what Gary has bears a strong resemblance to Natalie's original ordinance. Why it went back to her, why she rewrote her own ordinance, I don't know. But this isn't the planning board trying to bring the hammer down on property owners in Waterboro. We were taking the town attorney's advice and acting on her advice.
Well, doesn't have the D.
I guess Natalie's gonna change her mind, given time has passed and everything else, and maybe she hasn't changed her mind, but, I would guess that a lawyer, each time they review something, probably is gonna come up with something different, and I'm not saying that's bad, but I think this is a much cleaner process, and it just says that we have to have a public hearing on in essence, finished document, and if she has made some recommendation and has gone back to the planning board, I guess my question is, has the planning board then, because they've evidently made some changes, right? Has that gone back to Natalie?
Yeah, my question is, and I don't know the answer, if the final Natalie version went back and had another public hearing at planning board. I don't know the answer to that.
That's the more wordy one. I mean, the first one was just like a paragraph change. That, I believe, we had a public hearing on before we sent it to you guys. Yep. This thing, well, it's been going on for quite a while. I think it was 5 to 6 months. What came back, as far as I know, did not have a public hearing by the planning board.
And then,
So that would be the first order of business.
yep,
That's
for them to have a
correct.
plan. And then the latest version that was written by the planning board has been within the past 3 weeks. Glenn,
No longer than that.
2 months?
2 months probably.
has it been that long?
Yeah.
But that has not been public hearing.
I know, only the original submittal, like probably 6 months ago. As far as I know, to the best of my knowledge.
So I guess what we do with this one is we send it back to the planning board and tell them whatever version they want to submit to the Board of Selectmen, they need to have their public hearing on.
Yeah, I think we just need to make sure that that's passed legal test.
We need
Or
that in the
legal.
form of a motion. I'll make that motion.
Go ahead, Gordon.
I move that we send this document back to the planning board for a public hearing.
Okay. Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay.
And that document is the one that the planning board presently approves?
It'll be their choice. They'll have to submit it to Christina
that's-
or to Tammy
That's
to
the
get
question of
published.
the day, right?
No, I think we need to specify
We
that.
can't,
That's
just-
what I'm hearing here, is the version that the planning board presently approves needs to go back and have a
Yes.
final public hearing at planning board.
Yes.
So
And
what do
then
we-
it'll come to us.
And do we do anything else with the other version that we discussed here at the selectmen's level and had consideration for the ordinance provided setback reductions?
We paid for legal counsel, so I think we need to take the counsel's, what we paid for.
But that's gotta be,
Absolutely wrong with it.
that's gotta be the question for the planning board. We went to legal counsel, she gave you feedback. You know, if you're gonna disagree with what the legal counsel is, I hope you have good reason.
That happened at this, before the Board of Selectmen. The reason these setback reductions are in here is because issues that were raised at the selectmen level when we were about ready to have a vote.
Right.
So, Natalie is fine with either of these approaches. What we've done is we've got variances away from the planning board completely and sent over to ZBA. The planning board version sends everything to the ZBA for variances. Version 1. The other one allows some mild
Okay,
reductions.
so the
Both are
question,
fine
right,
and
the
legal.
question to the planning board is, Natalie has come back to allow some setback reductions in another version that would eliminate the need of some of those lots to go back to the ZBA,
Right?
okay?
Yes.
So and the planning board's still not involved anymore, right?
Correct.
Once that language goes through. So is that a hang-up for the planning board?
Yes, they don't like it philosophically. It's very clear. You're gonna get the version back that they've already approved, and they'll have a public hearing on it, and that's what you'll receive. That's my take, anyway.
Is that the version that eliminates the current
What?
landowner?
Drives everybody to the ZBA.
Yes, for everything.
Could I say something more about that?
Sure.
Please. The beauty of Natalie's original proposal was that she reduced the setbacks for these lots so that most of the lots wouldn't have to come to the planning board anyway or to the ZBA. And in fact, one of her recommendations, I think, was a 15-foot side lot reduction. And because traditionally we've gone down to 10 feet, we reduced that to 10 feet. So we would, to the best of my knowledge, we have never granted less than 10 feet on a side lot. That's our minimum, no matter what. Well, we're giving that to everybody. We're giving them a 10-foot minimum. So we weren't just saying send everybody to ZBA. Most people, I think, would be able to build under her setbacks. We're making that legal. The difference is, if it's really a tight situation, that would have to go to the ZBA. It wasn't just throwing everybody, to the ZBA.
The latest version from the planning board is dated 2/8.
No, that's the section.
Yeah, see, I'm not familiar.
2/6.
I'm familiar with the first one that she gave
Yeah,
us.
this is the one that's in our packet is dated 2/6/15.
And the one that's there now, Tim, has 0 provisions in the ordinance for setback reductions.
Yeah,
like
that's
you just
not the
mentioned.
way I remembered it.
Yeah.
No.
So I think it's probably changed.
It sounds like it, unfortunately.
It looks like it allows a maximum of 15% reduction in the planning board's version.
But to the ZBA, and that's limiting the ZBA decision.
Correct.
And we don't need to I'm a bit embarrassed that we're having this conversation because we ought to be at least trying to had most of these questions answered before we put it on the agenda. But the fact of the matter is that what you tell me is the planning board had the setbacks, and as Tim has said, there was setback reductions. That was the proposal that you guys came before us a while ago. Natalie evidently agrees with that. But now that we've gone back to the planning board has had a change of heart and says, no, we want to go to some sort of a percentage, and if you can't make that, then you go to the ZBA?
The philosophy now is more everything goes to the ZBA, no inherent reduction.
Okay. So the planning board has changed their mind.
Yes.
Simpler the better.
There's one other point that's been overlooked, and that is what is a grandfathered lot of record. Do you know, we moved 100,000 yards of gravel up on the West Shore Road. 5 people up there either built, rebuilt, or added on to their places. The 6th one come in with a new code enforcement officer, and he said, no, we're not gonna let you go because you increased your non-conforming lot. Can you think of anything so stupid as to say, if you increase a non-conforming lot because your neighbor agrees to sell you a right-of-way so you can get to your property, you can't buy the right-of-way. You can't do that, okay? When we had buildings that were serviced by a 10-foot easement, and they bought a 50-foot right-of-way, and now they're condemned, they can't work on their own property because they bought and created a legal right-of-way to get to it. And because the survey that was done in 1947, when there was a 50-foot drop-off, and when they straightened when we lowered the ground and leveled it with DEP approval, and the property lines found out that at that point, Gordon's property line ran through my bedroom, so they turned them, and now he says, we can't do this, okay? This is not Glenn, this is a former code officer. So, you know, there's issues here that need to be addressed. And the first one is, what is a grandfathered lot of record? And it's got to be written so that a grandfathered lot of record can be increased but not decreased. Because if, in this case, there was 100 acres of land behind it and the abutter said, okay, I'll sell you 25 feet of land, that person shouldn't be benefited, shouldn't be criticized if they now can put in a legal septic system that's 100 feet away from the lake rather than having to get a waiver and put it 50 feet from the lake. There's a lot of things to take into consideration here, not just, you know, having a one-sided look at it and making everybody pay money to go before the zoning board of appeals when they're going to get denied anyway, and putting a 15% cap on what they can get. Not.
So I think where we are with this is it has to go back to the planning board. They have to decide what their final version is, and they need to hold a public hearing. And then, once they're done with that, then it comes to us.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we've beat that to death, so let's move on. Discuss vote to appoint a selectman as representative at upcoming meetings with RSU 57 superintendent. So they dubbed these the 6-town group meetings. I know Gordon served as a representative. I've done it before. Typically, they're on on Tuesdays at 4:30 in Alfred.
I don't mind doing it, you know, if nobody else wanted to.
I'd move that we appoint Gordon as our representative to the...
Second that.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Probably the fastest agenda item we've had tonight.
Yeah. Discuss vote to schedule workshop with the budget committee. Gary has recommended that we look at setting workshops for the 17th and the 31st, and if we can't wrap it up then potentially looking at April 7th. So is everybody okay with doing some workshops on next Tuesday and the 31st?
Okay, any particular time?
5 o'clock?
17.
Oh, we've got to worry about the budget committee members being able to get here.
They've been okay at starting at 6.
6?
6.
Yeah, next Wednesday, I've just have a meeting with my accountant that day.
Tuesday.
Okay, Tuesday, you're fine.
What were the dates again, Terry?
The 17th and the 31st.
And you said the one in April as well.
7.
Potentially the 7th if we need it. The dates are in Gary's report. Okay. So I'll take care of
That's a
that.
disclosure date and call it.
And we're gonna have a copy of the budget before that, right?
Yes.
Okay. Next is discuss vote on board and committee appointments. So we have this evening Rosemary Whitaker for the library trustees, Crystal Arsenal for the Old Home Days, Deb Eisenhower for Old Home Days, and Kristen Carl for the Garden Club for consideration.
I move that we appoint those that you just read from that list to the corresponding committees.
All right, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Okay, and we have discuss vote to accept a committee member's resignation, and that would be Todd Smith from the Conservation Commission.
I will move that we accept Todd's resignation from the Conservation Commission with gratitude
Is there a
for
second?
serving.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay. We have no old business. Would entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the February 24th regular meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? We don't have anything under pending decisions. The week's action list, we've got Gary to get with the assessor and work on the land trust Bagley Road issue. We've got the public hearing. We need to get the minutes pulled from the planning board on the driveway ordinance. Christina or Gary, if you could make sure that it gets communicated to the planning board about the public hearing on 2.08.
But we're not sending either of those to the 24th.
No.
So, repeat that last bullet point there.
Making sure that the planning board knows that they need to pick which version of 2.08 they're gonna put to public hearing and have their public hearing.
Right.
And then it'll come back to us. Okay. Agenda items, we'll have the driveway ordinance, stuff to discuss. Anything else? I'm sure other stuff will come up. Okay. Items needing signature are the minutes of February 24th, the consent agreement, which we've already done. We have the reminders that'll be scrolling on the TV station after the meeting. And we have an executive session scheduled for some committee interviews for some folks that have very patiently been waiting. So we will go into executive session and then we will close out our meeting.
Can we take 5 minutes?
5 minutes?